It's Friday, May 3rd, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, we head out to Sturgis Library for some rainy day reading, learn more about spring programs at Barnstable Recreation, and check in with the Harbormaster's office. Boating season gets underway. Now for a look at municipal and legislative news. Registration for kindergarten is still open. To enroll your child in kindergarten for September 2019, please visit the Barnstable Public School District website to begin the online process for registration. Do not delay. Pre-screening dates are coming up fast next week. For more information, www.barnstable.k12.ma.us. Does all this rainy, dreary weather make you want to curl up in a cozy chair and read a book? Well, Sturgis librarian Corey Ferenkopf has some book recommendations for everyone in every genre. We're back to Sturgis Library for some more book recommendations. It's going to be summer sooner than we know, and Corey Ferenkopf, Adult Services Reference Librarian Extraordinaire.
Yep.
You've got a lot of different books here, something for everyone.
Yeah.
And it is kind of that time where people kind of reconnect with reading as the summer starts to kick off, and they're looking for some beach reads, or they're looking for, some summer evening reads. What do we have today?
Ooh, we've got a lot of stuff. I should say books, because stuff is very vague. So today I want to talk about 4 books I've read and 2 books I'm really excited to read, because I feel like it's also really important to be like, this is what I'm excited about. So hopefully you will be excited about it. First, we have A People's Future of the United States by Victor LaValle and John Joseph Adams. Like I said, I haven't read it yet, but I'm super excited to read it. It's an anthology of short stories. The editors basically gave the prompt of, what do you think America's going to look like in the near future or the distant future, and see what you come up with. And it's got some of the best science fiction and fantasy writers of today doing it. There's some great humor in it. There's some really dark stuff in it. There's some utopia. There's some dystopia, climate change, social change. It's excellent, and I'm super excited to check it out.
Wow, that sounds great.
All right. And also, short stories are great because, if you're sitting on the beach and you're like, I have half an hour or an hour, you can crank out one short story and have the experience of a full story, as opposed to being like, I can get a chapter, I can get 2 chapters.
Right.
So I like to pitch that of this is why you should read short stories.
Excellent, great advice.
Yeah. Next we got Exit West by Mohsin Hamed. This one I did read. This is a very relevant story right now, and it's also very short. Or not very short, but it's a shorter novel, so you can crank this out in a couple of sittings, and that's always a wonderful feeling. But it's a story about a man and a woman who fall in love, but they're in a Middle Eastern country that is going through all the struggles that a lot of Middle Eastern countries are going through now. So it really deals with the refugee crisis, but it takes it in a magical realist sense, where these 2 lovers essentially find a doorway that leads them out of their country that's currently being bombarded and under political upheaval, and they go through this door and it leads them to somewhere better. And all around the world, these doors are opening up, so all these refugees are able to kind of move away from these imperiled areas and keep moving through different areas of the world. So you'll see them kind of go from the Middle East to Europe to America, and these doors are all over the place. So it's kind of a cool look at how refugees are. It's kind of it's a good look into how refugees are affected by what's going on politically around the world right now, and also thinking of positive outcomes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful too.
It's a big book club book right now, so everyone's kind of grabbing it, and it's beautifully written. Next we got Red Clocks by Lainey Zumas. She's one of my favorite writers as far as line-to-line writing goes. She writes beautiful sentences, a lot of really short ones, and some of the sections are broken up in such a way that it's almost like poetry, but it's not poetry, it's still very much fiction. But this is a more contemporary version of a Handmaid's Tale sort of story. It's in the future, slightly in the future, and it's America where abortion is now illegal. It follows a woman who is a school teacher and a biographer. She's writing a biography of a kind of obscure female polar explorer, and she's also trying to have a child at this time. But she's not really able to conceive naturally, which is a big struggle point for her. and one of her students gets pregnant. And her student also doesn't know what to do at the moment. And they kind of have to like work together to support each other. And it's like a beautifully told story, and it's also kind of going back to A People's Future of the United States. It's kind of looking at like the possibilities of like what could happen, but beautifully written.
Wow.
We've got The Cassandra by Sharma Shields. Yeah. This one is a retelling of the Cassandra myth. You know the Cassandra myth? It's basically a woman who is cursed to, she's able to tell the future completely accurately, but no one will ever believe her. Yeah, and it applies that idea to the people who are developing the nuclear bombs before World War II.
Wow.
So the woman who is working in the factory under the scientist is like, hey, I see all the destruction that's going to happen. I'm warning you, and no one will listen. So you get a really interesting view into that section of history, into the development of the bomb and the people who are working on it, and also the idea of like prophecy and essentially like early warnings and how they're ignored. So cool read there.
Great.
This is what I'm reading right now. And this is for all the horror fans out there, because I know there's so many of you. And I actually hope there's tons of you. That'd be great. Nathan Ballingrud's Wounds. It's a collection of short stories. The title story, Wounds, was made into a movie called Wounds with Armie Hammer in it. That's coming out soon. But it's 6 stories that are somewhere between Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King, and Joe Hill.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's got great atmosphere. He borrows a lot from noir literature, detective literature. Right now, the story I'm reading is like a pirate narrative, and it's like swashbuckling adventure meets this crazy mythos of these otherworldly angels. And, it's great. I can't speak highly enough about it. The language is beautiful. The atmosphere is super tense, super dark. It's got that kind of Poe, House of Usher feel sometimes. And it's being made into a movie, and there's nothing better than reading the story than watching the movie. So that's this guy. And then finally, we have The Heavens by Sandra Newman. So Sandra Newman is an amazing writer, and she's hilarious. Everything she writes has a good amount of like witty, dark humor in it. This is the other book that I haven't read yet, but this is the one that's going on my nightstand pretty soon once I finish Wounds. So The Heavens is equal parts a love story, what's the word I want to say? A meditation on the power of dreams and how that can affect your reality, and also a bit of historical fiction about the Dark Lady of Shakespearean sonnets. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in it, but it's essentially there's a woman who meets a guy at a party, they fall in love, and she starts telling him about these reoccurring dreams she's had all her life where she basically inhabits the body of the dark woman from Shakespeare's sonnets. And at first, it doesn't seem like it's a super big deal, but whenever she wakes up, or as the story progresses, she starts waking up and the world around her is changing in accordance to her dream, and it seems like it's heading towards some sort of catastrophe, maybe. But I'm always into stuff that talks about like the world of Shakespeare and how it can like mimic or be mirrored in contemporary life. Right. So I'm pretty excited about it, and like I said, her humor is amazing. So if you're looking for a funny read with a little bit of historical stuff and some dream theory, give it a read.
So these are, very different from each other.
Yes.
And you have a service here that is just wonderful for the library. Folks come in and they have no idea what they want.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how Corey's book recommendations can work for the patrons.
So, well, I guess the first thing I really need to mention along those lines is there's a certain selection of books that basically everyone knows that they don't need me to recommend to them. Like right now, everyone's reading Where the Crawdad Sings, and I read it was excellent. Got a great sense of place. But you don't need me to come here and be like, read this book that everyone else is talking about right now. And the same thing for James Patterson or like Nelson DeMille or Nora Roberts. Like people who read these books know about them beforehand. So I have to take everything that's kind of below these like super well-known names and be like, hey, these books are also excellent. I know you like, if I know you like Where the Crawdad Sings, I could give you Lily King's Euphoria. Or if I know you like James Patterson's more action-packed, mystery, noir, thrillery kind of stuff, I could say, like, here's Laird Barron's Blood Standard. So it's about figuring out what people already enjoy and connecting them to the other fiction that A, they might not have known existed, or B, might present to them a different angle of that type of fiction, which I think is super important, because like, if everyone's reading the exact same thing, the narrative is very condensed and doesn't really include everyone. Right. Whereas if you're getting people to read varied texts that are all like in a style that they enjoy, like I'm not trying to force like, here, read this super weird book that I don't think you're gonna like because all you read is historical romance, that just like wouldn't be fair. Right. But that's kind of my thought on it. But so what people do is I sit at my desk, which is in the middle of the library. I've got my recommended shelf of usually 6 books, which most of these will be on it. And if people are looking at them, I try to like pitch the books to them. If they're not, I'll like shout to them across the library, hey, you're looking for a book. I don't actually do that. But I basically figure out like, hey, what do you like? And what are the genres? What are the recent writers who you've read that you've enjoyed? And then based on that, I generally be able to know like, hey, you'll like this, or you like realistic fiction, and you like musical elements, read Aja Gable's The Ensemble. And that's one I recommend a lot. Or if you like politics and coming-of-age stories, you can read Heather Abel's The Optimistic Decade. And those two have been like flying off the shelves, so that's pretty great. But yeah, I mean, that's generally how I go about it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
And what I liked about it is that you have the innate ability to steer somebody into a novel that they might not have picked up.
Yeah, because you don't.
Because The Ensemble was very, very good, and I
Right?
probably would have not picked that up.
Yeah.
And you had recommended that on our last visit, so fantastic.
Great.
Thanks so much, Corey.
You're welcome, Paula.
It's not too late. There's still some room in the spring recreation programs, and if you're looking for seasonal employment, Barnstable Recreation is the place to be. It's spring, and we're talking programs and jobs with Assistant Director of Recreation, John Gleason. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm well. It is spring.
It is spring. It's slowly but surely.
So let's start a little bit with some spring programs. What's going on?
Absolutely. So our brochure went out in the wintertime when people weren't thinking about spring, but now spring is here and programs have started or are starting now. Some of the big ones we have for girls is girls lacrosse. Girls lacrosse is taken off. It's been taking off. So if you have a daughter in grades kindergarten through 7th grade, we have a girls lacrosse program for you.
Girls lacrosse kindergarten?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so kindergarten through 3rd grade are together, and they're on Saturdays, and we're looking for players to do that. It's a introductory skills, how to scoop the ball up from the ground, how to cradle it, how to throw and catch, all basic stuff. Sometimes parents are a little anxious to get their kids going in something, but they have to remember at that age, the kids' fine motor skills are,
still being
developed. So the simple, what you think is simple is not simple for them. So we try to just teach the very basics of how to scoop and throw and catch and those sort of things and cradle, because that's what they need to learn. So eventually, once they pick those things up, then they can get into playing games and stuff like that. Which that leads us into our 4th through 7th grade program, where their motor skills are developed or still developing, but they can do a little bit more. And they have practice, break up into teams and play games. And that just started this week. For the after-school kids, and then this coming weekend for the younger kids. But we still have room for all ages, so it's definitely something for the girls to do. We also have girls softball at night on Thursdays and Fridays, and we are looking for 4th through 7th grade girls. Unfortunately, our younger kids, we just didn't have enough. And it's one of those things, if you don't have enough players, it's hard to do softball with not enough players. So unfortunately, we had to cancel that. But so plenty of things for girls after school on the weekends for the older age group. We have running on the weekend for girls. We have some other things that in soccer that the girls can participate in as well. For the boys, we have we do it every year, flag football and spring sports. Flag football for the 4th and 5th graders, and spring sports for the 6th and 7th graders. We're still looking for boys in that program, and girls can do the spring sports as well, but mainly it is boys. But flag football is just football, and grab the flag, and it's very instructional and fun, and they break up into teams and play games. Spring sports is just a range of activities that the kids want to do. So we used to do flag football with them, but then sometimes they get bored with playing that all the time in the spring. So we do like soccer, we do wiffle ball, kickball, dodgeball type games. They do flag football, but just every week we can change it up so they don't get stuck on one thing and they can pick kind of what they want to do.
How much fun. And again, getting kids moving and outside, having some real structured team sports really does help their development.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a chance to develop working as a team and not just as individual. A chance to meet new kids, new friends. Because sometimes maybe their normal friends aren't taking that class because they might be doing like private lacrosse or Little League baseball or something. So they get a chance to meet different kids and stuff like that. So it's really good. And then on the other end of things too, we do have a range of activities. So we still have our bowling. We have our outdoor adventure that's really popular.
That's a blast.
Yeah, so
I want to do that.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of different activities and many more. I mean, we could be here all day talking about all the things that we do, but I just wanted to highlight a few.
Yeah, and you're still looking for folks this summer. You got some jobs opening, and
Absolutely.
This is a great beginning to kids getting into the job, as well as some folks that have some time on their hands.
Absolutely. So we hire anywhere from 14 to however old you feel like you're still capable to work. We have, the 8th grade, 9th grader that's 14 working for us, and we have retired teachers or just people retired, and there's 60s, 70s, and even 80s that are working for us at the beach, or they're volunteering for us selling the parking passes for the beach. So yeah, we have a ton of jobs available. And it's great now that all the positions are posted on the Town of Barnstable website on the Human Resources page, and you can see all the positions available. And currently right now we have a ton of positions available that you can apply for. It does take a little bit of computer savvy and knowledge to apply online, but if you're having difficulty applying online, you can always give us a call and we can invite you in and show you how to do it, or over the phone walk you through it. Because once you apply from there, we can send all the people's paperwork to get them on board and stuff like that. It's been a real time saver for us the past year plus doing this.
Right, and then once you apply for one position, all of that information is saved. So if you want to apply for multiple positions, you only have to make one profile.
Yeah, you make one profile and a click of a button, you can apply for multiple positions. And we can get back to people through email to set up interviews. And it's just, really easy and convenient to apply. We're looking for lifeguards. We're looking for other staff at the beach. We need help, at the rinks, the skate park, different programs. We are, I think, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, employers in the summertime in town, and we're always looking for people, whether they're 14 or 85. If they're capable of working, we could find them something to do.
Right, and there's varied hours too. It's not like you're working till 11 o'clock at night, but there's some weekend work, there's some day work, so there's different positions that have different hours.
Yeah. If you're working at the beach as a beach aide, that's the 14, 15, 16, maybe 17-year-old. They're working 12 to 5. Our gate attendants are working 8:30 to 4. But we have skate park hours where they could be working 12 to 8. In the rink or open gym, at the youth center, or helping run our sports leagues. We have a volleyball league and a basketball league at the youth center in the summertime. They could help out with scoring and just general administration of that. So we have all different hours: day, night, afternoon. And then even for those people that want to volunteer, we need volunteers for the selling of the beach stickers, and that is usually a morning shift, like a 9 to 12, and then an afternoon shift. So always looking for someone. So if
something for everyone.
Don't hesitate to call us or get a hold of us through email or something. But we'd love to have you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, John.
No problem. Thank you.
Read, write, return. The Harbormaster's office has updates to navigational aids in our waterways and a gentle reminder to pick up your vessel permits. with temperatures warming up, it's boating season. Well, almost. I think maybe another couple of weeks. But with me today, Jared Smaller, Assistant Harbormaster. We've got lots to talk about today.
We do. There's plenty going on. It's springtime.
It is. You've been out in the boat?
I have.
Yeah.
Starting to place some of the aids to navigation. Marston's Mills River, North Bay Channel, and West Bay are already in. Okay. And within the next week to 10 days, I should have all of the rest of the way out through Cotuit in as well.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about that process. You pull them in the fall, you put them back out in the spring. Is that how it goes?
Pretty much. There's some maintenance work that goes into them with our new style buoys, the foam, closed cell foam buoys. The work is minimized on the buoy itself because they don't need paint, but they still require scraping and cleaning. I have to stretch all the chain out and check the chain, make sure that there's no wear on those, check the anchors, clean everything up, and then hook them up and drop them in.
So red, right, return?
Red, right, return. And remember, in 3 bays, everything leads back to the boat yards.
Exactly. So talk a little bit about safe navigation in some of these areas. I know that the dredging has happened in the Cotuit area. So talk a little bit about that. Is it different this year?
As far as I know, the channel won't be too much different. It'll be deeper. It was dredged to a depth of, I believe, 7 feet for low tide. When I get out there, we'll take an assessment of it and we'll place the aids in to mark best water and best use for everybody. And then as we figure that out, and we'll refile the permits and change the positions on those as need be.
Okay. And has there been any other dredging areas that will change a little bit this year?
Nothing that was dredged this year that I know of.
Okay.
And as far as I can tell, there hasn't been too much shoaling that's gone on over the winter either. So everything still looked pretty good. West Bay hadn't changed. North Bay Channel and Marston's Mills River hadn't changed yet either.
Right. We hadn't really had any of those major nor'easter storms.
Right.
That,
No,
you know,
we had a pretty quiet
sand.
winter weather-wise, so it shouldn't have changed too much.
Excellent. And then there's a new vessel storage fee. It's for everybody. It's not just for mooring permit holders. It's for everyone who leaves a vessel at town property.
Correct. For saltwater only. Any town way to water or landing or boat ramp that you choose to store a vessel, whether it be a dinghy, a kayak, there's a few little Hobie Cat type things out there throughout town. You're required to have a sticker or a decal that is issued by our office. There are multiple reasons for it. In the past, we issued the standardized Coast Guard one and asked you to just write your name. What we found over time is Sharpies don't hold up. And we learned that the hard way. Right. The biggest reason for them is safety and identification purposes. So by having your name and contact information on it, we can identify you if it's adrift. We can make a phone call when we find it and say, okay, somebody is sitting at home and it drifted off of a beach at a high tide, versus what happened 2 years ago in Barnstable Harbor, right about this time of year. The estimated cost was about $75,000 between Coast Guard assets, which were 2 boats and a helicopter, as well as Barnstable Fire Department and our resources for an adrift kayak, no paddle, no nothing, and no identification on it. Come to find out later, it had drifted from the Plymouth area and was recovered, seen by a fisherman and recovered, and nobody was in jeopardy. But it helps us minimize the process to find out if we do need to launch a full-blown search and rescue or if it's just something that went adrift.
Right.
So that's the primary reason.
Right. Are there some secondary reasons to that as well?
There are. We can keep track, and if it's over the size limits, which are 12 feet in length and a beam less than 5 feet, we can identify those people and get a phone call in and say, hey, you need to go and remove it before we have to get it. We don't like taking things off of the beach. It's time consuming. We're stuck storing them. We don't want to do that. So those are the biggest reasons, the safety and just identification. Those are the 2 primary reasons for it.
Right. So the question is, you know, why can't you just build this into the mooring permit?
Well, we can't generate and assign mooring fees based on certain areas, which is what would have to happen with this. Because if we raise the mooring fee by $25, which is what it costs for 1 decal if you are a mooring permit holder, if you don't hold a mooring permit, it's $50. So the people at Ropes Beach in particular, just off the top of my head, that have the kayaks, it's a $50 fee if you're not a mooring permit holder. You get 1 decal with a mooring permit for $25. If you take the area like, say, Lewis Bay, that mooring field, where most of the people that use that mooring field and have moorings there are members of Hyannis Yacht Club. So they use the Yacht Club launch. There's also no dinghy storage available there. So we would have to incorporate that fee into their mooring permit as well, and they're paying for a fee that they're not, for a service that they're not using. So if you, and then same goes in Katuitt, there's a fair amount of people over there that use the Katuitt launch that don't have a dinghy. So it can't go into a mooring fee just because everybody can't pay for the usage and fees that some need.
Right.
So.
And again, this all comes back to safety. Most people
Yes.
think that, you know, the rules of the water, well, you know, they're just, you know, we don't really have to pay attention to those, but everything on the water comes back to safety.
Absolutely. Just like still right now, you know, life jackets are required to be worn on canoes and kayaks through May 15th.
Right.
It's another safety thing that everybody tends to forget as the weather starts to get warmer. Remember, the water temperature is still very cold. It's about 40, in the low 40s right now in the Hyannis area. It's about 43 degrees. So fish are going to be coming in soon as things change. The weather's going to get warmer, but still remember life jackets and all of that. And one last thing, if I may, on the dinghy decals or the vessel storage decals, they still need to be removed no later than November 15th. They can't be placed until beginning on April 16th. And the decals expire on November 15th.
Okay.
And they are available at our office. We have them there. Just come up to the mooring office window, and for $25 if you're a mooring permit holder, and $50 if you're not, you can get a decal, and that lets us put it in the database and identify it.
Excellent.
And it works well too if you're traveling or if it's found by another town. We've done it where we've called other towns that we've found things and they've had an identification from another town. We've called them and they've run things through the database, and we've been able to get in touch with owners and find out what's going on.
Right.
So it's not just within the town of Barnstable that the safety aspect happens. It's interagency and from all the surrounding areas.
Right. All our waterways.
I've had stuff from Plymouth wash up in Barnstable Harbor before, and Hingham actually.
Right. Yeah, those currents are pretty swift
Yes,
on that area.
yes.
And all these waterways are connected as well. So
Correct.
the more that we can make it easier for you folks to do your real job, which is making sure everyone is safe.
That's #1 priority.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jared.
Thank you for having me.
Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. Feeling artsy? Join the Brown Bag Lunch Series at Cape Cod Art Center. CCAC hosts free informational and discussion sessions at different times throughout the year. Each session covers a different theme within art and photography and usually lasts between 1 and 2 hours. If you wish, bring your lunch and we'll provide the drinks. This series is free, open to the public, and designed for all skill levels. All sessions will be held in the Talbot Gallery at the Cape Cod Art Center unless otherwise noted. Registration is not required, but encouraged. Please call 508-362-2909 to sign up. Comments, suggestions, accolades, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Email us or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.